Have you got me?
There we go. How are you doing, pal? You okay?
I'm good, mate. How are
I'm
you?
very well. I'm famous for having tech issues when I do these things. I thought we were going to have an issue.
Well, I'm no use to you at all. I'm literally, yeah. I've been on live telly, and I've been like, I can't. I don't know what's going on. You can't see me. You can't hear me.
No,
Um,
my missus is the techie. She's watching. She's in the live. Hi, babe.
hello, everyone. Whoever's there, thanks for joining.
It's a nice hoodie you've got on there, sir.
I know. Yeah, I'm representing. Yeah, look.
Awesome.
Uh,
Can't see mine.
I love it. I absolutely love it.
Cheers,
Fits
man.
perfectly. Lovely colours. I'm just looking because I've been out coaching my son's football team, and I've got soaked.
All right.
So I'm looking. I'm trying not to look like a drowned rat. So.
I did all that before you came on. I'm always on, just checking the hair.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for coming on. I invited you on because obviously I've seen the Pandas or listened to the Pandas podcast.
Yeah.
I've commented on it, and there were some things that really resonated with me in that podcast and what we do. So most of the people in the live are going to be your side because I've not actually done Insta Live for so long. I'm usually TikTok based, but not many people come on mine. So I think most are your side. So I'll explain about me in a minute, but I'm sure most people recognise you. But if you can just let everyone know who is Jamie Kenna in terms of work, parent. If you just introduce yourself to everybody, that'd be great.
Anthony Costa's just joined. Come on, you Spurs.
Anthony.
So, I'm Jamie Kenna. I am an actor. Probably best known for House of the Dragon, the recent series of House of the Dragon, Coronation Street, Peaky Blinders, that sort of thing. And I think basically I'm a dad of two. And I've also had, I'm no stranger to mental health struggles and all that sort of stuff. So I've been very vocal in that, and particularly with the House of the Dragon, there's been a lot of publicity around that. I was out in New York. It was an amazing experience out in New York for the premiere and in London for the premiere. And I've done lots of magazine articles and chat shows and so on. And equally, when I was in Corrie, I've always been, I don't want to say a champion because that gives me some sort of God complex, but I feel that when you have a profile, I've always wanted to use that platform to speak out and not speak out in any sort of speak out against anyway, just to show that speaking out is okay. And I think we live in a world of social media. We live in a world where, this kind of idyllic picture is painted a lot of the time of people's lives, and particularly people who are on TV or in the public eye or whatever. So I've always been a real advocate of showing the strings, really, showing that, just because you're on telly doesn't mean you're not prone to those days where you can't get out of bed. And equally, and the Pandas thing, I've become a patron of their charity, which is all about, parenting. And as those of us that are parents know, it doesn't close the cracks in your makeup. It exposes them and makes them bigger.
Exactly.
And makes you very vulnerable and makes you question yourself as a role model, as a parent, as a human being. So, so that's kind of in a nutshell where I am here. And I'm always very, very happy and very privileged and honoured to come on anywhere, any platform, and talk about this stuff, because I think it's so important. And, and I think we're better at it, but we're not good enough. And I feel a responsibility from where I sit, to help deliver that message, to say, put your head above the parapet and say you're struggling and all that. I wish I had, when I've been at my sort of darkest points. I know you've had your struggles and stuff, and that's how we ended up touching base. So so thanks for having me on. So hopefully I can help some people, and I'm happy to chat and answer questions, whatever you've got.
Yeah, I mean, it's in no means sort of like an interview or a podcast. I used to do these a while ago. We were very active. We started, so Fatherhood Clothing. My name's Johnny, so I own Fatherhood Clothing along with my partner Nikita. Came about because just before lockdown, I made an attempt on my life, and it's something that I never saw coming. I never felt, although I was experiencing things like panic attacks, and I was going through a lot of stress with physical pain and money and all these other things that come with being just with life. But as a new parent as well, my son at that point was 1.5. And we'd gone through quite a rough ride with him when he was born. He needed heart surgery, and I didn't feel like I was struggling mentally. I just felt like I had the weight of the world on my shoulders. And the day that I actually went and tried to take my life, it was something that was not really planned. It was, I don't even remember the day very much. And then when I did come home, we went into lockdown, and there was no support. There was nothing there really apart from online support that wasn't working for me. I'd lost my job, and I was like, what do I do? And I joined a community group helping people, like, you know, pensioners changing smoke alarms during COVID and picking up shopping, and even things like picking up methadone prescriptions for, you know, for local addicts who couldn't go to the pharmacy. And it gave me a sense of purpose, and I thought, you know, and it made me feel better. Like, I wasn't getting counselling or any support. It made me feel better. So I thought I need a purpose, and so I set up a business. But even at that point, I wasn't addressing my mental health issues at all. I didn't talk about it when I came home. I didn't really seek any support because there was very little about during COVID. And I met a lady who ran a mental health campaign, and she's actually been on Coronation Street. Back in the day, she's called Rachel Spencer. She was Tracy Barlow's cellmate back in the day.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I randomly met her because I bought something off her on Facebook. So I added her on Facebook and saw that she ran this campaign called the BU Anti-Bullying and Mental Health Campaign. And I'd started this little clothing business just to give me something to do and take my mind off things and give me a focus. And I decided I wanted my own brand off the back of that. And I thought, well, what can I do with this brand? I don't want it just to be about me selling hoodies and making money. So I decided what I wanted to do was build this community, mainly of parents who are all about parental wellness and parental mental health, but also raise money for a good cause. So that's what we do now. When we have profit, which has not been often of late, but when we've had profit, we donate 10% of that to the BU campaign. We've done fundraising for Mind and Shout. But we've created this community around us, not just the parents. We've got everything from, you know, college kids to, you know, non-parents, single parents, just this community of support. And that's why I used to do lots of these lives. I went through another rough mental health patch sort of last year, not as bad as I'd been before, and I lost my confidence going live with people. You're the first person I've been live with, I think, for about a year and a half on Instagram.
Oh, nice. So I feel very privileged that I'm here. So,
Yeah,
welcome back.
I said I heard the Pandas podcast, and a lot of the things sort of resonated with me quite a bit, especially something that you said about how if you'd have been sat at home during that period watching telly, as you quite often did, and you'd seen somebody speak up,
Yeah.
that might encourage you to do the same. Which was when I heard it, I thought, well, I might have been the same. And that's why I started doing these lives, was so I could just have open conversations with people about the subject, and then other lads, not even blokes, because we're all about mums, dads, but especially men, would perhaps think, oh God, these guys have been through it. You know, you've got Dad here who's coming through the other side and started a business. You've got someone that everyone knows from the telly. Maybe I should start opening up, which is why I wanted to do it.
Well, and it's interesting you say about when you've had your struggles and you didn't really seek any help, and nor did I really. I there was such a stigma around, you know, going to the doctors, getting on antidepressants, whatever it is, and I never really wanted to do that, and I didn't really. And again, you don't think it applies to you. I didn't know what was happening to me. I thought I was always thinking it was something medical. I was thinking I had a heart condition or I had a brain tumor or something. It was always something extreme, and that's where my anxiety comes from. It's health anxiety. I'm always fearful, and I was in the West End at the time. I was in Warhorse, and I ended up with stage fright. I ended up not being able to, like, really struggling to go on stage. There's 2,000 people, 3,000 people sitting there, and I'm one of the main characters in this huge West End show, and I'm having to walk out in front of them whilst I'm having what I now know as a panic attack. But I had no idea what was happening. I didn't know it was a panic attack, and there's all that stuff that when you don't know what's going on, you don't know. Like, a panic attack sounds like something a bit, you know, it's a bit melodramatic. It's like, oh, you know, just. And I'm a child of the 70s where you just sort of told to get on with it. And panic attack, you know, it used to have a real stigma to it, like, oh, just, you know, stop moaning. But panic attacks are horrendous. I mean, they are like, you know, I thought I was going to die several times. I thought I was having a stroke. I thought, you know, and you're out of control. You're breathing, and like everything, the walls are closing in on you, and it's horrific. And I still have them now, but now I know what they are. So now I can go, and they come out of nowhere. They often come when there's nothing wrong, and you're just sitting indoors and watching TV, and you're in your comfort zone, and then boom, you just suddenly get this sort of anxiety from nowhere. But when you don't know what's happening, which is what was happening to me, it's terrifying. And I ended up going down all these medical routes, but I kept everything to myself.
Yeah.
And
so I remember on the podcast you said that you were, just walking down the beach having ice cream on a sunny day, like the place would
and boom,
really
this cloud comes over. But now, and I think I said on the podcast, if I turn around and I say to my wife or whoever it is, look, I'm having a moment, I'm struggling, and she does the same, instantly, it's like the monster in the cupboard. If you acknowledge it and go and actually open the cupboard and look and see the monsters, even if it's there, it's a tiny little monster. It's not as big as you thought.
Yeah.
Whereas if you run away and hide, then it gets worse. And that's what I said. That's what I referred to at that time, that dark period where I was laying. I couldn't leave the house. I really genuinely couldn't leave the house. And I'm in the West End. Like, it's bizarre. I had to leave the house. I had to go and stand on stage. I had to do the opposite of what I wanted to do every night. And, sooner or later, something had to give, and I ended up with a big back injury. But I think if I'd have seen someone or something like this, or someone on TV or whatever going, oh, this is what it is, and this is what it feels like, and this is what to do, and just speak out and ask for help, it would have definitely helped me. It would have 100%. It at least would have planted a seed with me to go, oh, I think that's what's happening to me, rather than me thinking, oh, I've got a brain tumor and I'm going to die, or something like that, and which causes more anxiety, more stress, and so on and so forth. And at the time, my wife was pregnant with our first child, so that was, again, when I look back, I'm like, the pressure that's then lumped on that, only from me. I'm going to be a dad. I've got to provide. I've got to do this, and it's awful. But as you know, as soon as you start speaking out, as soon as it's amazing how many people turn around and go, "Oh yeah, that's same as me."
Yeah, well, that's it. Like when I know sort of like, I was an instructor with the Air Cadets for many years. I was a cadet and then an instructor, and I was in this environment, mainly blokes who didn't really talk about things, but you were this community of people, and I was doing that sort of 3 times a week, most weekends, and I think I just find myself talking about stuff with them because you have a lot of downtime and period. But I left there quite quickly. I was like, I'm leaving now. I'm going. I want to do other things in my life. And I didn't realise I was cutting such a massive part of my life, but a big support network out of it as well. And I had no one really that I talked to like I used to talk to those guys, but I didn't really notice. I was just, going on, and then I got into a relationship, and my sort of friendship group changed. So I didn't have the usual people around me that I would talk to. I didn't notice anything. I started feeling pressure. I'd not been working for quite a while. And then when my son was born, he had to have emergency heart surgery.
Right.
At the same time, I had arthritis in my ankles, my knees, and my elbows, and that was flaring up. I'd lost my job. So I found myself in a position where I had no money coming in. Most of the weight on that was on my partner. I was in agony all the time. And I think at the time I just felt like I've got this little thing to look after who's been so poorly, and I'm not bringing any money in. Some days, I can't even pick him up because my elbows are flared up, or I can't walk, so I'm in bed all day. And there was no one around me. My partner was there, but that was the last person I was going to open up to at that time. Now, all the time. But my mindset then was, I can't be. It's weak. That's what I felt like. It's weak.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and this guy. I'm just looking at the comments here. Hello, guys. By the way, hello everyone. Thanks for coming on. We've straight into this conversation. I feel like there's a lot of. But I've got one here. Before I forget Dad's advice, it's so scary becoming a dad. You turn yourself into a proverbial rock because you think that's the way, and I think that's exactly what you're saying. You just, it's that stiff upper lip, it's that puff your chest out. Get on with it, and you don't want to. And here's an interesting point. I think you think you got to hide that stuff from your kids, but actually, I think it's really important that we open up to our kids about mental health. I think we open up to. I'm 6'4", I'm a big burly guy, and I want them to see my vulnerable side. I want them to see me, I want them to see me cry. if, you know, I want them to see me that I'm struggling. I don't mind telling them that daddy feels a bit anxious or whatever. I share when I need to, because I think it's important, because I grew up in a world where you don't, and it caused me all sorts of problems. And I want them to grow up thinking it's okay to reach out. It's okay to come and go. I don't know why, but I feel low, I feel down, or whatever it is. So I think that's equally being a rock is my point.
And I've sort of had those, not too in depth. My son's 6 now. Well, he's 6 in a couple of weeks, and he doesn't like me leaving the house too much. He's a lot better than he used to be, but he doesn't like it when I go out. He wants to know where I'm going and what I'm doing. I DJ quite a lot on weekends as like a just for a bit of fun. I worked for a guy for the last few years DJing, so I'll go and do that. I have to reassure him that I'll come back, and when I come back, I'll come and check on him. But twice a month, I facilitate in-person men's mental health groups for a group called For Men to Talk, mainly based down south, but I set a group up here. And I think I said to him, he said, "What are you doing, Daddy?" I said, I'm going to this men's group. And he was like, "What's that?" And I explained it to him. And now every time he knows it's on a Tuesday. So if I'm putting him to bed and I say, "Right, Daddy's got to go now," he says, "Oh, you're going to go and help the men who are sad." And we'll always have this little conversation about it. And sometimes the day after, he'll be like, "Oh, what were the men okay yesterday?" And if there's something I feel like I can sort of talk to him about, and say, "Well, there was one guy, he felt a bit like this, and if you ever feel like that, let us know." And he's starting to sort of, understand it, and I'll keep working on it with him.
Otherwise, there's no point in the journey you've been on. You know, and that's a hell of a journey you've been on. You know, I'm so sad to hear that you got to that place, and it's so amazing that you've come back and where you are now. But it's so important that he hears, obviously not about that necessarily, but you know, that you open that up. Otherwise there's no point in that journey. There's no point in that experience. There's no point in getting where you've got if you can't then pass that on and show the benefit, which is why we're having this chat now, which is why we're, you know, and I jumped on, although I love my hoodie. But yeah, I think it's really, really important. Hello, I've got people saying hello to me, and I'm ignoring them. So hello, everyone. Hello, Kaz. How do you cope with meeting an actor you love and admire? Because I saw somebody I love. Oh, from House of the Dragon, and my nerves played up. Well, I don't know what to do, but I don't know what to say about that. What's he really mean? Is he big and mean? Kaz was at the premiere. I met her at the premiere in the House of the Dragon.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
So one of the sort of questions I did have, and when I first started fatherhood, there was the clothing brand, and that was the business side, and we were using that to help raise funds. Initially, it was a grant scheme that was helping struggling parents sort of in the wake of COVID. And then we moved to just donating as and when we can to BU for their free counselling that they offer and their anti-bullying workshops. But I wanted to start a podcast, and I did one, and then I started doing the Instagram lives, sometimes with big creators, sometimes with people in the community. But what I wanted to do was interview people who were maybe on TV. Reality TV was quite interesting to me, and the impacts of that sort of environment on mental health. And I did a podcast with John Courtney, the Britain's Got Talent winner from 2020. Yeah, I went over to his house and did one with him. But I wanted to sort of explore that. How does that sort of world affect your mental health? Now, I know you said that you were playing the lead in, did you say it was Warhorse? I think when you first started feeling it. But even now, when you're sort of through that, obviously everybody who's had struggles carries on struggling at some point. But how does that sort of work away from home, a lot away from your kids, and that sort of pressure, how does that affect your mental health now? And how do you sort of deal with that when you find yourself struggling?
Yeah,
because it's obviously a lot.
It's a really good and very valid question. I have to consider that quite heavily when I'm accepting jobs. When I'm thinking about accepting jobs, I turned a job down this summer because, you know, it's a balance. You know, you've got to weigh up all sorts of, you know, the creative side of it, the financial side of it. You know, I've been away doing films and I'm away from home a lot, and I hate being away from my kids. I do. It's one of the big things because I know they're growing up fast, and it's 5 minutes around the corner before they don't really want to hang out with me much anymore, and they're going to be with their pals, and you know, and I don't want to have missed that time, the precious time I've got now. So yeah, I have to consider it, and one of the considerations is, so like I said, I had a job this summer, a theatre job, which I really wanted to do. I got offered it, and I decided to say no because the financial reward wasn't enough for me to miss the summer with my kids. And experience tells me, because I've been there before, that I know what impacts that will have. If I'm the sun's shining, they're on school holidays and they're here, and I've got to get on a train into London, that plays on my mind, that plays on my mental health. I then, it's a bit of a downward spiral. And I've been there before. I've been on tour. I haven't been on tour for a long, long time because I can't now, because it's just too much. And this, I have to take it into consideration, and I have to draw on my experience. So, right, what's this going to do to me? How's this going to affect me 3 months down the line, when we're well into the job, when we're filming, when I'm on set, whatever? Because if I'm not happy, then my mental health starts to suffer.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's part of it. Sometimes I was away doing a film called Gran Turismo, and we were in Germany and Budapest, and they came out for like a week, but then I was away for about 2.5 months, I think, and a lot of that time I wasn't with them. And so I had to put into place certain periods of the day where I have to speak to them. Although FaceTime with the kids is agonizing because they don't care. they just completely ignore me, but at least I get to see them. So, and I also knew that to look out for the signs when I was starting to dip, and it's all of those sorts of things. You just got to put stuff in place. But I have actually turned down jobs because I'm like, my mental health's going to not deal with this very well. But yeah, it's just part of the job. It's part of the job, but you just got to, learn from your experience and not put yourself in vulnerable situations, or as little as you can. Sometimes there's no, you can't avoid it, but rely on your experience, I think.
Exactly. I don't really, with doing this, have to travel much at all. But even just a night away, because I'm never away from them really, just a couple of nights away, and I start feeling frustrated. I want to come home. And I know there's nothing wrong. Auntie, whoever's looking after them, it's all fine. But I still get that, not panic attack level, but I still sort of need to get.
But then you probably find that if you are like I do, I'm away from them. Hello, Oliver, by the way. Vinta. If you're like me, I like pine for them. I miss them, and then I get home within 10 minutes. I'm like, oh god, I wish I was back in a hotel on my own. But again, that's all part of it. That's all part of it. But it's away from that family unit. It's away from the solid comfort base that you have. And I think it's okay. Again, it's okay. I think that's what you got. I think that's the message that I always want to give. It's all right. It's okay. You haven't got to perform. You haven't got to be this person that everyone wants you to be. And it's all right to go, do you know what? I'm gonna really struggle with that.
One of the things
I've not done that, and I've tried to battle through, and I've become a bit of a recluse, or I've become a bit moody or a bit grumpy, and I've not been the best company member because I'm struggling. Whereas now I won't do that. If I'm in that situation and I'm struggling, I'll be like, I'm struggling. And the amount of times, I think it's the most important thing, the amount of times I've turned around and gone, I'm struggling, and someone else has gone, me too. And then you end up having a bit of a chat, and it doesn't take the problem away. There's no quick fix, but it definitely halves it. It definitely makes it feel more comfortable and recognizable. And there's no shame around it. Like, you just go, I'm having a bad one.
No. And what I've sort of noticed a lot is a lot of the blokes who are struggling, who I speak to, they will say that there is, there's nowhere to go. Who do we speak to? There's nothing for men. That happens a lot. There's nothing for men. And actually, there is lots. There is lots out there. And like, we signpost people to them all the time. You've got like Andy's Man Club, for example. You've got so many organisations like that. I was intrigued though. When you're, say with like House of the Dragon, for example, do you have within that sort of environment people who are responsible for looking after the mental health of the people working? Do you find it easier to access that sort of stuff because of that environment, or are you sort of the same position in health? You got to find it from outside.
I found House of the Dragon, ITV have been great. I've never felt, especially when I've had my issues, I've never felt like there was no one I could turn to. I've always felt supported. I mean, I haven't, because I've got things in place myself, and I've been going through it a long time, and so I would just speak out to anyone, I think. But yeah, there are definitely things in place. You know, there's medical people, there's occupational health people, there's, you know, you wouldn't be short of someone to turn to and say, oh, I'm struggling, or I'm feeling. And the thing is, with being an actor, you know, and there's a lot of actors on here, you know, have joined, which is great. And hello, everyone. And they'll support me in this. Is that actors are deemed to be these kind of extrovert people that, you know, we're misrepresented as show offs a lot of the time, and oh, we're used to being in the limelight, used to being in the spotlight, and you're used to performing and all that. But it's totally the opposite, because we're not like that. You know, we like to create characters and we like to tell stories, but with that comes the public eye. With that comes the attention, with the spotlight, and particularly when you end up in a soap, or you end up in a big TV series, you know, and the spotlight's well and truly on you, and it's a really, really lonely place to be. And so I think actors are up there with you know, the people that suffer the most with mental health.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you're supposed to be this kind of performing monkey, as it were, but it's, you know, you're not. It's a very, very lonely place. And you know, when your life's under a microscope, and you know, the expectation is on you to be all right, you know, it's kind of harder a lot of the time. And I found that a lot. Like I said, I was in the West End, and I didn't feel, you know, I had to get myself out of the house. I couldn't even leave. There was a Lidl at the end of my road. I lived in Brixton, and there was in London, and there was a Lidl 200 meters at the end of my road, and I couldn't walk there. I remember one day I tried twice, and I got about 100 yards, and I had to turn back, sweating, panic attacks, like crying. And then I had to leave that day, and I had to go and be on stage. And I remember standing in the wings, waiting to go on, and I had a bucket of carrots, these fake carrots, and it was like, it was jangling, and I could barely get one foot in front of the other. I don't know how I did it. I still look back now, and it brings me out in like hives. But I had to do it. So, you know, imagine that, when you're at your lowest point, and then you've got to go and stand on stage in front of 3,000 people, remember lines, and deliver this play for people who have paid all this money for a ticket. You know, because that's the other pressure that comes with it. It's you know, but I would say, in answer to your question, I definitely didn't feel unsupported, or I didn't feel that it wasn't available. But that being said, that's me with my experience. So I would just go to anyone. I don't know how I would be if I was a young actor, thinking I'm struggling. Who do I go to? I don't know, is the honest answer, and that's not right. It should be very, very obvious.
Yeah, should be something that maybe needs to change in general. People just need to know where to go for these things.
Yeah.
I mean, I in the process of trying to build for our website, just one place, and it's taken a long time, where someone can go if they're in Northampton, Glasgow, Bedford, wherever, and look where is somewhere in my local, at least county, if not town. So I think so everyone should have access to. It shouldn't be down to people like me to do that. That should be just information that's there. But unfortunately, it's
But you're
not.
doing a great job, though, mate. You're doing what's. I disagree. I think it should be down to you. It should be down to me. It should be down to everyone to do this, to make it normal, to normalise it, and you know, the whole fight or flight thing. You know, anxiety, panic attacks, all of that. You should be all normalised. You know, footballers should talk
Yeah.
about it. Big,
No,
you
I
know,
mean,
big.
like a central sort of like database, like
Yeah,
the NHS should hold a database where all these groups are. I mean, it's certainly down to blokes who have gone through stuff like us to start, you know, talking out, which is why I do. People are like, I can't believe you're so open about it. It's like, well, how am I going to help anybody if I'm not? I can't sit around a conversation and not tell my story, because then it's, you know, I'm
yeah,
talking, but there's not as much ability there. And I sort of not enjoy doing it, that's the wrong word, but I like doing it because I can sit in front of people, I'll get people message me on DMs who are struggling, who see what we do, and I can go, look, this is where I was, and now I've got 2 kids, a business, I'm getting married next year. It's not a brag, it's a look where I
yeah,
was, look where I am, why
yeah.
can't you do that? You're not quite where I was yet, so why can't you do that?
Yeah,
And then
this is it. It's not a brag, and it's not a, and also it's important, I think, to say there isn't like a quick. It's not like, you know, I had COVID and now I haven't got COVID anymore. You know, mental health is this is what I'm saying about the stigma, and it should be normalised, because being a human being is hard. Living in the world is hard, you know, and being a parent's really hard. But being a human being is really difficult. and there's a lot of stresses and strains, and wherever that comes, and sometimes, like we said, it comes when everything's fine and you've got enough money in your bank and enough food in the cupboard. But other times, but it should be, everyone should understand that anxiety is part of life, is part of everyday life, and so it's never going to go. But sometimes it has a surge, and sometimes it takes hold of you a lot more. And if you don't understand what's happening, what that is, it takes a real grip on you.
Cool.
And that's what happened to me. It's always been there, because now I look back and go, those feelings were always there. And like I said, I can have a panic attack now, or I can feel more anxious than I did last week, for whatever reason that is. But I understand it, and I think that's the important thing. That's what we're doing, is we're normalizing it, and we're not going, hey, look at me, I'm all right now and I'm cured. We're just going, look, it's the same, and I understand what you're going through, and the reason I'm here is because I understand it and I can talk about it, and that's what you've got to do, and we've all got to get there, and everyone has got to open their arms and go, this is all part of life. It's the same as breathing in and out. You are going to be anxious. And some people will have it worse than others, and you'll have your time, and you might, hopefully you never have your time, but if you do, a lot of people have the same thing. That's the message.
Sometimes all it takes is someone to go, I know, I understand. You actually know that they understand. Yeah. Well, I said we'd do half an hour, so I know you're a busy man. And before we go, if there's anybody watching, because I'll post this later. So what would you say to anyone who's watching who might be sitting at home feeling the same way we were? They're suffering with the anxiousness. They're feeling depressed or that. What would you say to them? What would you say to them to sort of do over the next week, maybe, to try and address that?
I think have a listen to this, because I think you've got a really important story to tell, and just I guess my main message is, it's all right, it's okay, and you will be okay. But you've got to reach out, and whoever that is to reach out to, I'm sure you'll put some things in the chat, and give this page a follow. Go on the NHS, because I think there are links, but pick up the phone to your mate. Pick up go and knock on your next door neighbour's house. I don't know, ring your parents, ring a sibling, ring whoever you've got, and reach out, because you'll be surprised. That's what I found. I was surprised. I've since had conversations with. I remember my mate came to see me when I was in London, and he came around my house, and at this time when it was a really dark place, and I was on the verge of going to the doctors, and I was going to get on some tablets. And years later, we were sitting in the pub drinking one Sunday, having a few beers and chatting, and it just came out, and he broke down in tears, because he felt he'd let me down, because he didn't know. I'm getting really emotional even thinking about that moment, because he felt he'd let me down, but I didn't say anything to him, and he was like, "Why didn't you tell me?" And I was like, "Because I didn't know what to tell you. I didn't know, and I didn't know how you'd react. It just was so far from being anywhere where I could say, look, mate, I'm struggling, because I didn't know how to verbalise it, how to vocalise it or describe it. So I just got on with it. And and I'm an actor, I suppose, so I pretended I was all right. And we had this moment in the pub, and it was really emotional, and it spoke volumes to me. And I guess that's my message: is reach out and speak to anyone, because you'll be surprised by the reaction.
Yeah.
And like I said, if someone turns around and goes, "Oh my God, me too," it's like the biggest arms around your shoulders you'll ever get. But no one's going to turn you away. No one's going to turn you away, and just getting it out and just talking to someone. That would be my first message to anyone. And 1,000,000%, my message to everyone is, you are not alone. You're definitely not alone. I said this to you when you messaged me. You're not alone. You're 100% not alone. I'm with you. You're with them, and there's a million other people that are in the same boat.
That's it.
And we'll continue to be in the same boat.
Yeah, it's sometimes really hard. I think people find it really hard to maybe speak to family members and friends. So my sort of message is, look, anyone is watching who is struggling, drop us a DM. We'll signpost you to somewhere to go. There's plenty of services out there, and I'll put a load of links in after, where you can just go and talk to a stranger, a trained stranger who knows how to guide you through you know, what you're going through, and can send you to the right place to get help. It doesn't have to be mum, dad, sister, brother, or best mate. If you don't feel you can do it, there is plenty of support there. Just reach out.
I think one more. I'd like to say one more thing as well, because I think this is important. Is when I say this, when I say just reach out, or you're not alone, all of that stuff, it's helpful, but it makes you. I don't want to paint the message that, you know, reach out and it'll all be okay. It's a journey, and I know that might sound depressing, and that might sound like, you know, not quite what you want to hear, but it is a journey, and I think that's what we're both talking about. And your journey starts the minute you go, I'm not okay, and you'll have dips, and you'll have low points, and you'll have dark spots, but just know it's a journey, and you're not alone, and you just keep going, and you keep asking for help, and you keep pushing, and you keep putting one foot in front of the other, and keep on trucking, and it will be okay. It will be okay.
Indeed, if there was a quick fix, you actually probably wouldn't come out the other side as strong as you would do if you had to go on that journey. And the journey itself is tough, but at the end of it, it's ultimately it can make you completely.
Yeah, for sure.
Shout, guys. Yeah, talk to somebody, reach out, message us. Samaritans, Shout, Mind. There's so many. I'll tag them all in the video when I post it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for coming on, Jamie. I appreciate it.
Pleasure. Let's do it again.
Yeah, let's maybe try and set like a proper podcast or something. Maybe get a couple of others involved. If there is anybody who's watching now or when I post it, if you want to come on and have a chat, then by all means, please message me, because I'm going to do as many of these as I can now. I'm back in the swing of it again.
You're doing a great job, mate. And yeah, you too as well. Keep on going.
Cheers, man.
Keep on fighting the fight. And
Thank you, mate.
Do this together. Thanks for joining, everyone.
Cheers, man. Love to the family.
Yeah,
see you later, buddy.
See you soon.
Thanks, mate.